Have you ever noticed how often people say, I'm just waiting until I feel motivated? They tell themselves they'll start exercising when they feel energized. They'll begin reading when they feel inspired. They'll work on their dreams when the excitement finally arrives. But here's the problem with that way of thinking. Motivation is unpredictable. It comes and goes like the weather. Some mornings you wake up ready to conquer the world, and other mornings you struggle just to get out of bed. If your progress depends on how you feel, then your future is in the hands of your emotions. That's a risky place to leave something as important as your life. The people who accomplish extraordinary things understand a simple truth. They don't wait to feel like taking action. They take action, and that action often creates the feeling they were waiting for. Think about it. Have you ever not felt like going for a walk, but after 10 minutes outside, you were glad you did? Have you ever resisted starting a project, only to find yourself completely focused once you got going? That's because action is often the parent of motivation, not the other way around. One of the greatest lessons you can learn is that discipline will carry you farther than motivation ever could. Motivation gives you a powerful beginning, but discipline gives you a powerful finish. Anyone can be excited for a day. Anyone can make big promises on New Year's Day or after watching an inspiring video. But what happens on an ordinary Tuesday when nobody is watching? What happens when you're tired, when life gets busy, or when progress seems slow? That's where discipline quietly steps in and says, do it anyway. Success has never belonged to the person who feels the most motivated. It belongs to the person who keeps showing up. Every single day they make a choice. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's difficult. But they understand that consistency is built one decision at a time. They don't ask, do I feel like it? They ask, is this what I committed to? That single question changes everything. You see, every day your mind offers you two voices. One voice looks for comfort. It wants to sleep a little longer, scroll a little more, postpone the important work until tomorrow. The other voice reminds you of who you want to become. It reminds you that every worthwhile goal requires effort. Your future depends on which voice you choose to listen to more often. Discipline isn't about being harsh with yourself. It isn't about becoming robotic or removing all joy from life. It's about making decisions that your future self will thank you for. It's choosing what you want most over what you want right now. That's a simple sentence, but if you truly live by it, your life begins to change in remarkable ways. Don't underestimate the power of small daily decisions. Most people imagine success as one giant breakthrough, one lucky opportunity, or one life-changing moment. But real success is usually much quieter than that. It's waking up when the alarm rings instead of hitting snooze. It's reading 10 pages instead of watching another hour of television. It's making one healthy meal instead of another excuse. These choices seem insignificant in the moment, but repeated over weeks, months, and years, they completely transform a person's life. Remember this. Every action is casting a vote for the person you're becoming. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your character. Every time you follow through, even when you don't feel like it, you build trust with yourself. And self-trust is priceless. Once you know you can depend on yourself, confidence grows naturally. Confidence isn't something you buy. It's something you earn through repeated acts of integrity with yourself. There will be days when the excitement disappears. There will be mornings when your goals feel distant and your energy feels low. Don't panic when that happens. Those aren't signs that you're failing. Those are opportunities to prove that your commitment is stronger than your emotions. In fact, those difficult days are often the ones that matter most. Anyone can move forward when the road is smooth. Character is built when the road becomes steep. Think of a farmer planting seeds. He doesn't dig them up every few days to check if they're growing. He waters them faithfully because he trusts the process. In the same way, your daily discipline is planting seeds for a future you cannot yet see. Every workout, every page you read, every hour spent improving your skills is another seed placed into the soil of your future. Keep planting, keep watering. Your harvest will arrive, even if it takes longer than you expected. The greatest freedom you'll ever experience comes when you stop being controlled by your moods. Imagine waking up knowing that your habits are stronger than your excuses. Imagine becoming someone whose actions are guided by purpose instead of temporary feelings. That's where real transformation begins. Not in a burst of inspiration, but in the quiet decision to do what needs to be done day after day. And once you master that one decision, you'll discover something remarkable. Discipline stops feeling like a burden and starts becoming part of your identity. You no longer force yourself to act because it's simply who you are. That's the foundation of consistency, and it's the foundation upon which every meaningful success is built. Asterisk, the life you want begins the day you choose discipline over excuses. Now, once you've made the decision to stop depending on motivation and start relying on discipline, the next question becomes, where do I begin? The answer is much simpler than most people imagine. You begin with the first hour of your day. If you want to become consistent every day, don't try to change all 24 hours at once. Master the first one. The way you begin your morning has an incredible influence on the direction of everything that follows. Think about it. Every single morning, life hands you a fresh opportunity. Yesterday is finished. Last week's mistakes are behind you. Today is a blank page waiting to be written. But what most people do is allow the world to write the first chapter for them. Before their feet even touch the floor, they're scrolling through messages, reading headlines, checking social media, and reacting to everyone else's priorities. Before they've made a single decision for themselves, they've already surrendered their focus. You can't expect to live a purposeful life if every day begins with distraction. The first hour is more than just 60 minutes. It's a declaration. It's a statement about who is in control. Are your habits in control? Are your impulses in control? Or are you making intentional choices that move your life forward? The answer to those questions determines far more than most people realize. Now, that doesn't mean your mornings have to look perfect. You don't need an elaborate 4-hour routine with dozens of complicated habits. Sometimes people become so obsessed with designing the perfect morning that they never actually begin. Keep it simple. Simplicity creates consistency. Start by getting up when you said you would. That one decision sends an important message to yourself. It says, my commitments matter. Then spend a few quiet moments thinking about where you're headed. Remind yourself why your goals matter. Read something that stretches your mind. Move your body, even if it's only for a few minutes. Write down the most important task you need to accomplish today. These aren't dramatic actions, but they create momentum. And momentum is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Success rarely begins with giant leaps. More often, it begins with small victories that build confidence. When you've already kept several promises to yourself before most people have finished breakfast, you carry a different attitude into the rest of the day. You don't feel like you're chasing the day anymore. You feel like you're leading it. Hey, have you ever noticed how one poor decision early in the day often leads to another? You oversleep, so you rush. Because you're rushing, you skip breakfast or settle for something unhealthy. Then you're late, which creates stress. Stress affects your focus, and before you know it, the entire day feels scattered. One careless beginning quietly influences everything that follows. The opposite is just as true. One disciplined decision creates another. You wake up on time. That allows you to think clearly. Clear thinking helps you make better choices. Better choices produce better results. Those results increase your confidence. Suddenly, consistency doesn't feel impossible. It feels natural because you've created an environment where success becomes easier. Remember, consistency isn't built by occasional heroic efforts. It's built through repeatable routines. That's why successful people often appear calm. They're not constantly making thousands of difficult decisions because many of the important ones have already become habits. Their mornings aren't left to chance. They've removed unnecessary decisions by creating simple patterns they follow every day. The beautiful thing about habits is that they eventually begin working for you instead of against you. At first, discipline feels like effort. You have to remind yourself. You have to resist distractions. You have to push through excuses. But over time, what once required determination becomes automatic. You stop debating whether to do it. You simply do it. That's why the first hour matters so much. It's where habits are reinforced. Every morning is another opportunity to strengthen the kind of person you're becoming. Don't underestimate the value of protecting your attention. We live in a world that constantly competes for it. Every notification, every advertisement, every opinion, every breaking story is asking for a piece of your focus. If you're not careful, you'll spend your best hours building someone else's priorities instead of your own dreams. Guard your mornings like they're valuable because they are. The quality of your attention determines the quality of your life. Where your focus goes, your energy follows. And where your energy goes, your future is being built. Some mornings won't go according to plan. You'll oversleep occasionally. Unexpected responsibilities will arise. Life will interrupt your schedule. That's normal. Don't let one imperfect morning convince you that you've failed. Consistency isn't perfection. It's returning to the path as quickly as possible. Missing once is an event. Giving up is a habit. Never confuse the two. Each sunrise offers you another chance to become the person you said you wanted to be. The question isn't whether the opportunity will arrive. It always does. The question is whether you'll recognize it and use it wisely. Imagine what happens when you win the first hour, not just once, but every day for a month. Then imagine a year. The changes won't simply appear in your calendar. They'll appear in your confidence, your character, your productivity, and your peace of mind. You'll discover that the secret wasn't finding more time. The secret was taking ownership of the time you already had. When you learn to begin each day with intention instead of reaction, you stop drifting through life and start directing it. And that's when consistency transforms from something you struggle to achieve into something you naturally live. Win your first hour, and the rest of the day will learn to follow. Asterisk, once you've learned to build your day on discipline instead of motivation, and you've taken control of the way your mornings begin, something important starts to happen. You begin proving to yourself that you can be trusted. And that brings us to one of the most powerful principles of consistency. Make small promises to yourself, and keep every one of them. Most people think confidence comes from success. They believe they'll feel confident after they achieve the goal, earn the promotion, build the business, or reach the milestone. But confidence begins much earlier than that. It begins the moment you start keeping your word to yourself. Every time you say, I'll do this, and then you actually do it, you strengthen something invisible but incredibly valuable, your self-respect. Think about how trust is built in any relationship. If someone constantly breaks their promises, eventually you stop believing them. It doesn't matter how sincere they sound. Their words lose value because their actions don't match. Now ask yourself an honest question. How many promises have you made to yourself that you never kept? I'll start on Monday, I'll exercise tomorrow, I'll read every day, I'll stop wasting time. Those words may seem harmless, but every broken promise quietly chips away at your confidence. Over time, your mind begins to expect disappointment from you. You stop believing your own commitments because experience has taught you that you'll probably quit. That is one of the most damaging habits a person can develop. Not because it affects one goal, but because it changes the way you see yourself. The good news is that the opposite is also true. Every promise you keep sends a different message. It tells your mind, when I say I'm going to do something, I mean it. That message grows stronger every single day. Before long, discipline no longer feels like a battle because you've built a reputation with yourself. You become someone who follows through. Now here's where many people make a mistake. They think the promises have to be big. They decide they're going to wake up at 5 every morning, work out for 2 hours, read 100 pages, eliminate every bad habit, and completely transform their lives overnight. It's an exciting plan for about 3 days. Then reality arrives and they become overwhelmed. Don't confuse ambition with effectiveness. Small promises are powerful because they're repeatable. Read 10 pages instead of promising 50. Exercise for 15 minutes if that's what you can consistently maintain. Write 1 paragraph. Save a small amount of money. Make your bed. Drink more water. Finish the task you planned before starting another. None of these actions will impress people on social media, but they will quietly transform your character. Remember, consistency isn't measured by the size of the action. It's measured by the frequency of the action. Imagine a tiny drop of water falling onto a rock every single day. 1 drop doesn't seem significant. 100 drops don't seem significant, but over time, those drops reshape the stone. That's exactly how your habits work. Small actions repeated faithfully create extraordinary change. The miracle isn't in doing something spectacular once. The miracle is in doing something ordinary over and over again. There's another benefit to making small promises. Every completed action gives you evidence that you're making progress. Your mind needs evidence. It doesn't thrive on wishes or intentions. It grows stronger when it sees proof. Each completed habit becomes another piece of evidence that says, I'm becoming more disciplined. I'm becoming more reliable. I'm becoming the person I want to be. That's why it's so important to celebrate progress instead of waiting for perfection. Too many people refuse to acknowledge how far they've come because they're focused only on how far they still have to go. They finish 1 week of consistent effort and immediately criticize themselves. It's because they haven't reached the finish line yet. Don't do that. Take pride in every promise you keep. Not because the task itself is extraordinary, but because the habit of following through is extraordinary. Character is built in those quiet moments when no one is watching. Nobody applauds you for reading 10 pages or taking a morning walk or completing 1 important task. But those private victories eventually create public success. You'll also discover that discipline creates momentum. Once you've completed 1 promise, keeping the next one becomes easier. Success has a way of building on itself. 1 disciplined choice influences another. Before long, you're accomplishing things that once felt impossible, not because you suddenly became more talented, but because you became more dependable. And remember, there will still be days when you fall short. There will be times when you miss a workout, skip a habit, or lose focus. That's part of being human. The important thing isn't avoiding every mistake. The important thing is refusing to let one mistake become your identity. Don't turn one missed day into a missed month. Learn the lesson, forgive yourself, and return to your commitments immediately. The strongest people aren't those who never stumble. They're the ones who refuse to stay down. Every time you come back after a setback, you reinforce the belief that quitting is no longer an option. As you continue this journey, you'll notice something remarkable. The promises you make begin to grow naturally. What once felt difficult becomes easy. What once required tremendous effort becomes routine. You'll realize that your greatest victory wasn't checking another task off a list. It was becoming someone who honors their own word. And when you reach that point, consistency is no longer something you chase. It's simply an expression of your character. You don't act because you're inspired. You act because that's who you are. Asterisk, keep your word to yourself, and you'll become the kind of person success can depend on. By now, you've seen that consistency isn't created by waiting for motivation. It's built through discipline, strengthened by winning your mornings, and reinforced every time you keep a promise to yourself. But there's one obstacle that has the power to destroy all of that if you allow it. It's an obstacle so common that most people don't even recognize it anymore because they've learned to live with it. That obstacle is excuses. Excuses are dangerous because they rarely sound unreasonable. In fact, they often sound intelligent. They whisper things like, "You're too tired today. You can always start tomorrow. Now isn't the right time." Once life settles down, then you'll get serious. The problem is that excuses never announce themselves as enemies. They disguise themselves as logic. They make you feel comfortable in the moment while quietly stealing your future. Here's something worth remembering. Every excuse offers immediate relief, but it also charges long-term interest. The relief lasts for a few minutes. The regret can last for years. Think about the dreams people carry: a healthier body, a stronger family, financial freedom, a successful business, a meaningful career. Most dreams don't disappear because people lack ability. They disappear because people repeatedly postpone the actions that would have brought those dreams to life. One delay becomes another. One excuse becomes a habit. Eventually, they convince themselves that success simply wasn't meant for them. But success has very little to do with fate and everything to do with responsibility. The moment you stop looking for reasons why you can't and start looking for ways that you can, your life begins to move in a completely different direction. Responsibility is one of the most empowering words you'll ever embrace. Some people hear responsibility and think of pressure. I hear opportunity. Because if your choices help create your current circumstances, then your future choices can create a different future. That's incredibly good news. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need every answer before you begin. You simply need the willingness to take ownership of the next decision in front of you. Now, let's be honest. Life isn't always fair. There are people carrying burdens that others never see. Some are dealing with financial struggles. Others are facing health challenges, family responsibilities, disappointments, or setbacks they never expected. Those realities are genuine, and they shouldn't be ignored. But here's the question that changes everything. Regardless of what has happened, what are you going to do next? You may not control every circumstance, but you always have some control over your response, and your response is where your power lives. Imagine two people facing the exact same obstacle. One spends all day explaining why progress isn't possible. The other spends the same amount of time searching for one small action they can take. At the end of a year, their lives will look completely different. Not because one had fewer problems, but because one refused to let problems become permanent excuses. Don't underestimate the cost of saying, "I'll do it tomorrow." Tomorrow is one of the busiest days on the calendar because everyone keeps sending their dreams there. But tomorrow has a habit of becoming next week, next month, and next year. Before long, years have passed, and people are left wondering where the time went. The truth is, life changes in the present moment. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Right now, that's why imperfect action is so valuable. Many people delay because they're waiting for certainty. They want the perfect plan, the perfect opportunity, the perfect conditions. But perfection is often another excuse wearing a different mask. Progress has never belonged to people who waited until everything was ideal. It belongs to those who were willing to begin before they felt completely ready. Remember when you first learned to walk? You didn't succeed because you never fell. You succeeded because every fall was followed by another attempt. Imagine if babies decided they weren't naturally gifted at walking after falling a few times. None of us would ever take a single step. Growth has always required imperfect beginnings. The same principle applies to every area of life. Your first presentation won't be your best. Your first business idea may not succeed. Your first workout may leave you exhausted. Your first chapter may not be brilliant. That's perfectly fine. Excellence is not the starting point. Excellence is the reward for refusing to quit. There's another excuse that often hides in plain sight. The belief that small efforts don't matter. People tell themselves, if I can't do everything today, I might as well do nothing. But that's one of the greatest misunderstandings about consistency. Doing something is always more valuable than doing nothing. 10 minutes of focused work beats 0. One healthy meal beats another unhealthy day. One phone call, one page, one idea, one step. Those small actions keep your momentum alive. Momentum is precious. Protect it. Whenever you catch yourself making excuses, pause for a moment and ask a simple question. Is this reason moving me closer to the life I want or farther away from it? Most of the time, you'll already know the answer. The challenge isn't identifying the excuse. The challenge is having the courage to act anyway. That's what separates people who dream from people who achieve. They feel the same doubts. They experience the same fears. They face the same temptations to postpone. The difference is that they refuse to let temporary discomfort make permanent decisions for them. As you continue building consistency, don't waste your energy trying to create a life without obstacles. That day will never come. Instead, become the kind of person who keeps moving despite the obstacles. That's where strength is developed. That's where character is revealed. And that's where ordinary people begin producing extraordinary results. The future you've been hoping for isn't waiting on better circumstances. It's waiting on better decisions, repeated day after day without excuses. Excuses delay your dreams. Action brings them to life. Asterisk, if you've stayed with this journey so far, you've already discovered something that many people never fully understand. Consistency isn't about dramatic moments. It's about ordinary days repeated with extraordinary commitment. You've learned to stop waiting for motivation, to take ownership of your mornings, to keep the promises you make to yourself, and to remove excuses before they take control of your life. Now comes perhaps the greatest test of all. Staying consistent when it feels like nothing is happening. This is where most people quit. Not because they're incapable, not because they lack talent. They quit because they can't see immediate results. They begin to wonder if all the effort is worth it. They exercise for a few weeks, but don't see the body they imagined. They work on a business for months without seeing significant income. They read books, learn new skills, and improve themselves, yet their circumstances appear unchanged. Slowly, doubt begins whispering, maybe this isn't working. But let me tell you something that can completely change the way you look at progress. The most important growth in your life happens long before anyone can see it. Think about planting a seed. The day after you place it in the ground, nothing appears different. A week later, the surface may still look exactly the same. If you judge the process only by what your eyes could see, you might assume nothing was happening. But beneath the soil, something remarkable is taking place. Tiny roots are spreading. Strength is developing where nobody can applaud it. The foundation is being built before the plant ever breaks through the surface. Your life works much the same way. Every disciplined action is strengthening something inside you, even when the outside hasn't changed yet. Every workout is building endurance. Every page you read is expanding your thinking. Every early morning is strengthening your self-control. Every difficult decision you make, instead of taking the easy path, is shaping your character. Character grows quietly. The world celebrates visible success, but lasting success is created in the invisible moments. It's built when you continue working after the excitement fades. It's built when nobody notices your effort. It's built when there are no compliments, no awards, and no immediate rewards to keep you going. That's why patience is one of the greatest partners of consistency. Many people underestimate how long meaningful success actually takes. We live in a culture that wants instant results. We can order food in minutes, watch almost anything instantly, and communicate with people across the world in seconds. Without realizing it, we begin expecting life itself to operate at the same speed. But the most valuable things in life refuse to be rushed. A strong reputation takes years to earn. A successful career is built one day at a time. Financial independence grows through consistent decisions. Healthy relationships are strengthened through countless conversations, acts of kindness, and moments of trust. None of these happen overnight, and that's exactly why they become so valuable. Don't allow the absence of visible results to convince you that you're making no progress. Sometimes the greatest evidence of growth isn't what you've gained, it's what you've stopped becoming. Perhaps you're calmer than you used to be. Maybe you recover from setbacks more quickly. Perhaps you're no longer controlled by every emotion or distraction that comes your way. Those changes may not attract attention from the world, but they represent real progress. Never overlook the quiet victories because they are often preparing you for the larger ones. There's another truth that every consistent person eventually learns. Progress is rarely a straight line. There will be days when everything seems to go perfectly. You'll feel focused, productive, and energized. Then there will be days when you struggle to accomplish even the simplest task. That doesn't mean you've lost your momentum. It simply means you're human. The mistake is believing that one difficult day erases months of disciplined effort. It doesn't. Imagine climbing a mountain. Some sections are steep, while others are almost flat. Occasionally, the trail even curves away from the summit before turning upward again. If you judged your progress only by each individual step, you might believe you're moving in the wrong direction. But when you step back and look at the entire journey, you realize you've been gaining elevation all along. Life is like that. Don't become discouraged because today's results don't match your expectations. Stay faithful to the process. Continue planting the seeds. Continue showing up. Continue doing the work that others are unwilling to do consistently. Eventually, something remarkable begins to happen. The small improvements you've barely noticed start combining into something powerful. The knowledge you've been collecting suddenly solves a problem that once seemed impossible. The habits you've practiced every day become second nature. The confidence you've been quietly building allows you to take opportunities that once intimidated you. To the outside world, it may appear that your success happened overnight, but you'll know the truth. You'll know it was built one ordinary day at a time. Trust the process enough to continue even when the rewards are delayed. Don't measure your commitment by what you've received. Measure it by the person you're becoming. Because long before success appears in your bank account, your achievements or your reputation, it first appears in your mindset, your habits, and your character. Remember, the tree that grows the tallest also spends the longest time strengthening its roots. If your progress feels slow, don't assume you're falling behind. You may simply be building a foundation strong enough to support the future you're working toward. Stay patient, stay faithful, stay consistent. Because one day you'll look back and realize that the days you thought weren't making a difference were actually the days that changed everything. Keep showing up. The results are already growing beneath the surface. As we bring all of these ideas together, I want you to realize that consistency is about something much bigger than checking tasks off a list. It's bigger than waking up early, exercising, reading books, or accomplishing daily goals. Those habits are important, but they're not the destination. They're the tools. The real objective is to become the kind of person who naturally lives by those habits. In other words, consistency isn't just something you do. It's someone you become. That's one of the greatest shifts you can make in your thinking. Most people ask, what do I need to do to succeed? It's a fair question, but there's an even better one. Who do I need to become? Because once your identity changes, your actions begin to follow naturally. Think about someone who sees themselves as a healthy person. They don't exercise because they're forcing themselves every single day. They exercise because that's simply what healthy people do. Someone who sees themselves as a lifelong learner doesn't have to negotiate about reading or improving their skills. Growth has become part of who they are. Someone who sees themselves as dependable doesn't look for reasons to avoid responsibility. They honor their commitments because reliability has become part of their character. Your identity shapes your habits far more than your intentions ever will. That's why lasting change always begins on the inside before it becomes visible on the outside. If you spend all your energy trying to change your behavior without changing the way you see yourself, you'll constantly feel like you're fighting against your own nature. But when you begin telling yourself the truth about who you're becoming, your daily decisions start to align with that new identity. Now, be careful here. I'm not talking about pretending. I'm talking about becoming. There's a difference. You don't become disciplined by repeating positive words while ignoring your responsibilities. You become disciplined by making disciplined decisions, one after another, until they become part of your character. Identity is earned through repeated action. Every time you choose courage instead of comfort, you're becoming more courageous. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you're becoming more disciplined. Every time you keep your word to yourself, you're becoming more trustworthy. You are shaping yourself every single day, whether you realize it or not. The question is, are your daily choices creating the person you hope to become? Here's another truth that will serve you well. Never believe you've arrived. The moment people think they've learned everything, they stop growing. Life has a way of rewarding those who remain humble enough to keep learning. Every experience has something to teach you. Every setback carries a lesson. Every mistake contains wisdom if you're willing to examine it honestly. Don't fear mistakes. Fear refusing to learn from them. Some of the strongest, wisest, and most successful people you'll ever meet are not people who avoided failure. They're people who used failure as a classroom instead of a courtroom. They didn't let one bad chapter convince them the entire story was over. They understood that every disappointment carried information that could make them stronger if they remained teachable. That's the mindset you want to develop. When life knocks you down, and at some point it will, don't ask, why is this happening to me? Instead ask, what is this trying to teach me? That simple change in perspective transforms obstacles into opportunities for growth. And remember this, consistency doesn't mean moving at the same speed every day. Some seasons of life allow you to accomplish a great deal. Other seasons require you to slow down and simply keep moving forward. That's perfectly fine. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to never completely stop. A river doesn't carve through rock because it's the strongest force in nature. It succeeds because it keeps flowing, day after day, year after year. Persistence accomplishes what sudden bursts of effort never can. The same is true for your life. There will be moments when progress feels exciting. There will also be moments when it feels repetitive. Don't confuse repetition with failure. Repetition is often the price of mastery. Every musician practices scales. Every athlete trains the fundamentals. Every craftsman refines the basics. Excellence has always been built on doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. One day, people may look at your life and call you successful. They'll admire your discipline, your confidence, your achievements, and your consistency. What they won't always see are the thousands of ordinary choices that created those extraordinary results. They won't see the mornings you got up when you wanted to stay in bed. They won't see the evenings you kept working while others were making excuses. They won't see the quiet decisions that slowly shaped your future. But you'll know that every small choice mattered. You'll know that every promise you kept strengthened your character. You'll know that every difficult day you refused to quit became another brick in the foundation of the life you're now living. So as you leave here today, don't focus on changing your entire life overnight. Focus on changing today. Make today's decisions with tomorrow in mind. Keep your promises. Protect your mornings. Eliminate your excuses. Trust the process even when the results are invisible. Most importantly, remember that every single day you're becoming someone. Choose wisely who that someone will be. Years from now, your future won't be determined by one dramatic decision. It will be determined by the countless ordinary decisions you made when no one was watching. That's where greatness is born. That's where character is built. And that's where consistency stops being a struggle and becomes your way of life. Your future is not created by what you do once. It is created by what you refuse to stop doing.